Welcome back to NightStoryHQ, where the mysterious, the unexplained, and the chilling come alive. Tonight, we take you deep into one of the most controversial and compelling alien abduction cases in history. A story that shook the small town of Snowflake, Arizona, and left a trail of questions that have never truly been answered. This is the detailed account of Travis Walton, a logger who vanished for 5 days in 1975 after a close encounter with a UFO. His story includes polygraph tests, eyewitness accounts, and strange medical evidence. Whether you believe in extraterrestrials or not, this tale will make you question what really happened in those dark woods that November evening. Let's begin. The encounter, November 5th, 1975. It was a cold evening on November 5th, 1975. Travis Walton, then 22 years old, was working with a logging crew in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, just outside Snowflake, Arizona. The crew, 7 men in total, had just finished their day felling trees and were heading home in a single pickup truck driven by crew leader Mike Rogers. As they were driving down the remote forest road, the men noticed a bright glow filtering through the trees ahead. At first, they thought it might be a fire, but as they drew closer, they were stunned to see a glowing metallic object hovering silently just above a clearing. It was shaped like a flattened disc, perhaps 40 feet wide, and emitted a high-pitched mechanical hum. Travis, impulsive and curious, jumped out of the truck and ran toward the craft, ignoring the shouts of his coworkers to stop. He stood beneath the object, staring up in awe. Then, without warning, a brilliant blue-green beam of light shot from the underside of the craft and struck Travis in the chest. He was lifted into the air, limbs flailing and thrown backward like a rag doll. The other men screamed in terror and fled in the truck, believing Travis had been killed. The disappearance. Once they regained their composure, the crew returned to the site just minutes later, only to find that Travis was gone. There was no trace of him, no burn marks, no blood, just an eerie silence in the forest clearing. Panicked, they drove to the nearest town and contacted the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. A search party was quickly organized, scouring the forest for any sign of the young man. Dogs, helicopters, and dozens of volunteers searched for 5 days, but Travis was nowhere to be found. The local sheriff, skeptical from the beginning, began to suspect foul play. The theory emerged that the crew had either accidentally or intentionally killed Travis and concocted the UFO story to cover it up. The media caught wind of the bizarre tale, and suddenly, the sleepy town of Snowflake was swarmed by reporters, skeptics, and UFO enthusiasts. The return. Then, on the night of November 10th, 5 days after he vanished, Travis Walton suddenly reappeared. He was found at a gas station in the nearby town of Heber, Arizona. He was disoriented, confused, and visibly shaken. He thought only a few hours had passed. He was thin, dehydrated, and had several days' growth of facial hair. He also had strange red marks on his body and a puncture wound that looked like it had been made by a hypodermic needle. When questioned by police, Travis described in vivid detail what had happened after he was struck by the beam of light. Inside the craft. Travis's testimony. According to Travis, he woke up in a small, curved room. The air was thick and humid. He was lying on a flat surface, and when he tried to move, he felt intense pain in his chest and head. Around him stood 3 beings, short, humanoid figures with oversized bald heads, large black eyes, and pale, marshmallow-colored skin. They were dressed in orange-brown jumpsuits and moved with eerie calmness. Terrified, Travis leapt from the table and grabbed a nearby object. He believes it was some kind of tube, and tried to ward off the beings. They didn't resist. Instead, they calmly exited the room, leaving him alone. He then wandered through the craft and eventually encountered human-like beings, tall, blonde, emotionless figures who wore blue uniforms. They didn't speak to him but guided him into another room and placed a mask over his face. He blacked out and remembered nothing else until he awoke on the side of the road near Heber. The polygraph tests. Of course, such a fantastic story met with immense skepticism. Was it a hoax? A delusion? A cover-up? To determine the truth, law enforcement conducted polygraph tests, lie detector exams, on Travis and the other 6 men who had witnessed the event. Remarkably, 5 of the 6 passed their tests, indicating they were telling the truth about what they had seen. One test was inconclusive, not a failure. Later, Travis himself would take multiple polygraph tests across several years, administered by different professionals, and pass them as well. Even skeptic Philip J. Klass, a fierce critic of UFO claims, had to admit that the consistency among the witnesses was unusual. The witnesses. Each of the 6 other men stuck to their version of events over the decades. Mike Rogers, the crew chief and Travis's close friend, never once wavered. Neither did Ken Peterson, Dwayne Smith, Steve Pierce, John Goulet, or Alan Dallas. None of them benefited from the attention. In fact, many of them suffered because of it. They were ridiculed, accused of lying, and shunned by some in the community. Yet their accounts have remained consistent for over 40 years. Steve Pierce even claimed he had been offered $10,000 to recant his story and say it was all a hoax, but he refused. Media frenzy and skepticism. Travis Walton's case exploded into pop culture. He appeared on national television, was featured in magazines, and even wrote a book titled The Walton Experience. In 1993, the story was adapted into the Hollywood film Fire in the Sky, though the movie's depiction of the abduction was far more graphic and dramatized than Travis's actual account. Skeptics and debunkers have long challenged the story. Some suggest Travis may have suffered a fugue state or psychotic break. Others believe it was a publicity stunt or a case of group hysteria. Yet no one has ever been able to fully disprove what happened. No evidence has surfaced suggesting a hoax, and no confession has ever been made. Travis continues to speak about his experience, often at UFO conferences, and remains calm and credible in interviews. Strange aftermath. In the years that followed, Travis reported having recurring dreams, sometimes of floating through strange tunnels or hearing mechanical hums similar to those from the craft. His sensitivity to light and sound increased, and he developed unusual fears. Perhaps more interestingly, the location of the encounter, once a random patch of forest, later showed signs of strange biological changes. Tree rings in the surrounding pines were found to be growing at an abnormally rapid rate in the years following the incident, something later documented in scientific studies. Could the intense energy emitted from the craft have altered the cellular growth of the trees? Or is it just another eerie coincidence? So what really happened to Travis Walton? Some argue it was a hallucination, a fabrication crafted by bored loggers seeking attention or money. Yet, if it were a hoax, it was an elaborate one, with consistent eyewitnesses, past polygraph tests, and a person missing for 5 whole days. Hoaxes typically fall apart under scrutiny. This one never has. Others believe Travis may have had a real psychological episode, or become lost in the woods and created a false memory to cope. But how does that explain the other 6 men witnessing the craft and the beam of light? Were they all imagining it too? Then there's the third explanation, the one that continues to fascinate people around the world, that Travis Walton truly did encounter an extraterrestrial presence. That for 5 days, he was taken aboard a craft, not of this earth, and subjected to procedures beyond our understanding. Today, the Travis Walton abduction remains one of the most thoroughly documented and widely discussed cases in UFO history. It's been the subject of books, documentaries, scientific debates, and endless speculation. Whether you believe in aliens or not, there's no denying the power of Travis's story. It has endured for nearly 50 years without collapsing under the weight of time, ridicule, or scientific scrutiny. And perhaps that's what makes it so haunting. In the dense forests of Arizona, under a cold November sky, something unexplainable happened. A man vanished without a trace, returned 5 days later, and forever changed the way we talk about alien encounters. Thank you for watching Night Story HQ. If tonight's journey into the unknown captivated you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another eerie tale. And as always, stay curious, stay questioning, and beware what lurks beyond the stars. Good night, and keep your eyes on the skies.